are listening to Happy Hour Hustle, a bi-weekly podcast featuring the musings and witty remarks of the one and only Kim Bodie. We can promise at least 2 terrible jokes out of Kim and at least 10 minutes of incredible thought leadership from some amazing and influential guests. So grab a glass of iced red wine and join us for a wild ride. Here's Kim.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Happy Hour Hustle. We're pretty excited to be here with you today. We're actually recording this in the office. It's been a long time since, I don't know, we've seen each other's faces or anything. It feels like we're breaking the law.
It does.
And then I think of that song, Breaking the Law, Breaking the Law. You guys have no idea. You're too young. Nope. So today we're talking about adjusting to a new community and integrating yourself into a new community as a professional, and then honestly just as an individual in general. When I started out, I lived in every podunk town outside of Grand Rapids before I made the move to the big city because I was terrified of the big city. I lived in Allendale, a cornfield across from Grand Valley. I then moved to Burnups, which is by Door, in case any of you are wondering, and it's one street. They do have a very good ice cream shop there, though. And then I moved to Coopersville, and I lived there. And then from Coopersville, I got my very first apartment in Grand Rapids. And I remember thinking, like, where will I park? What will I do? This is the big city. This is so overwhelming. And I ended up I worked for Grand Valley at the Cook DeVos Center for Health Sciences. So the parking was never actually an issue. But I remember not really knowing where to even start in terms of, you know, whether it was networking, whether it was even finding a place to live. So we have Bree and Erica on from our team, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves and their position, and then also where they moved from to GR. And we're going to talk a little bit about, you know, what their journey has been like, you know, finding their place in Grand Rapids, and then also their most recent move, which means they're living together with a cat.
Oh, no.
So, yes.
Just slow that in there right now.
All right, Rick, why don't you start us out?
Okay, so I'm Erica. Everyone calls me Rick, so you'll probably hear me. Good God. Past tense. Hear me referred to by both. I am the digital lead at 834, so I do all things website, digital ads, metrics, data, internet. You get the gist. What was the other one? Oh, yeah.
That's fitting. Somebody locked their doors. How dare they? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. You tell them, Sarge. Okay, so you moved from...
I moved from Mount Pleasant, and before that, I was born and grew up in Lansing.
Okay, and then Bree.
I am Bree. I'm the public relations specialist, so I do all things media lists, media contacts, press releases, all of the fun things, and I work really closely with Kim on all of those things. Where did I move from? I went to Alma College, so I moved from there, but I'm originally from Mount Pleasant. But prior to that, I was actually in Washington, D.C., so that's where I technically moved from.
Oh, yeah. Talk a little bit about Washington, D.C. I forget that because you first say what your degree was, and then you ended up in Washington, D.C., so you actually have experience living in a larger city.
Yes. So I was a political science communication double major. I thought that I wanted to do political campaigns. I thought I wanted to do political PR, so I took the bait and headed all the way to Washington, D.C. I gave the big city a shot. Coming from Mount Pleasant and Alma, it was a bit of a culture shock.
Oh, I can only imagine.
As you can imagine. I was like, wow, public transportation that actually works. This is insane.
What, I don't have to stand outside and wait for a bus for 45 minutes? Great.
Like, Mount Pleasant doesn't even have that. There's like one taxi that you pay $3 and you can go anywhere in the city.
Oh, because it's one guy.
Yeah. It's like literally a bus.
Yeah.
Everyone knows him by name.
I don't even think Alma has public transportation.
Well, obviously, why would they?
Walk everywhere.
How big is that college even?
It's very, very small. I'm not entirely sure. The farthest thing that you need to get to is the Meijer, and it's not conveniently located, so you'd have to walk at least like a mile and a half to get to Meijer.
Oh, I didn't even know there was a Meijer there. I thought everyone went into Mount Pleasant from Alma.
Nope.
I thought they just grew their own food.
There's a Walmart. There's a Meijer.
Whoa.
That might be it.
So
very developed.
Since it is interesting that you guys work at the same place and also live together, talk a little bit about how that kind of came to be. Because when you first moved here, Bree, you moved to Allendale because you thought that would be close.
I did.
And it's not that it's like super far away, but not someplace we would probably move any of us that know Grand Rapids. And then, Erica moved to a roach-infested, I'm sorry, it was what were those spiders?
Recluse.
Brown, it was a brown recluse. Recluse, is that what it's called?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, okay, I don't know. Anyway, it's a spider that will kill you. So she moved to a slightly questionable apartment off of Plainfield that had all sorts of issues, like, water and heat and everything. So thank God you two found each other and then decided to move in together. So yeah.
We made the strides.
Yes.
We're making moves. We finally moved downtown. We're like a mile from the heart of downtown, so it's kind of perfect location. We went on a walk the other day, and it was literally like 15 minutes to get to.
It's so nice.
Where did we go?
Studio Park
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
So it's a big step up for us.
Well, and you did this in the midst of the quarantine and isolation and all of the
Yeah.
things. So
Not
Bree didn't
ideal
even
timing.
see the house.
Yeah, I
Bree
did.
saw it through FaceTime when I
Yeah.
toured it because they were allowing one person in at a time.
yeah, just weird times we're adjusting to.
I walked in for the first time. I was like, well,
Looks good.
good thing I already signed the lease.
It's perfect. Yeah, and really, Erica's not a great judge of places to live either. So
It's amazing. We both, the whole weekend when we moved in, we were like, how is this ours?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. Thank God. Now maybe you guys won't get like some weird disease from where you were living before. So
We do have carpenter ants at the moment.
Yeah.
oh, that's easy enough. I can help you get rid of those. I had those too before. Okay. So is there a funny story you have about moving?
Is there?
I don't know.
I don't think there was anything. I moved the cat in very early. Well, this isn't really that funny, but it's just kind of random. I left for a night and I had been packing up all week, and when I got back, she had like ripped out the door frame in my old apartment because she was like freaking out, I think.
Ugh.
So I don't know if you're supposed
They
to
better
like,
not make you pay for that because screw them.
Yeah, they probably will, honestly. I don't, whatever. But I didn't really know what to do with her because she was freaking out, so I don't know if you let cats say goodbye to a place, but I just like threw her in the car and took her to the apartment. It was like, Bree, here, moving in tomorrow, but here's lady.
I didn't even know if she was in there. I kept like opening the door and like calling her, and nothing happened. I was like, she must not be here.
She's
hid
hiding.
for a long time. Yeah.
And now
Um,
she's hiding in my room constantly. Like she thinks
Yeah.
that my room is her room.
Bree's
I
room is
just stay
lady's
there.
room.
Well, yeah, it is her room. She's already claimed it, so
She
that's
hides behind my sweatshirts and under my bed, and I just never know if she's in there. Erica hadn't even moved in yet, and I was laying in bed, and she just popped out of my closet, and I freaked out. I was like, oh my god.
Hey.
Whoops.
So you guys obviously, first of all, it is kind of odd that you both ended up in Grand Rapids from, where you lived. Why GR? Like, each one of you start. Like,
Want me to start?
Erica, you
Yeah.
can start.
I wasn't super set on a specific city when I was coming up on graduation. It was more like the type of job I was going for, and I just knew I didn't want to go back to Lansing. So I was looking in Detroit and Grand Rapids, and 834 is what actually made that decision for me. It was like the perfect fit for me. And then on top of that, Grand Rapids I'm more familiar with Detroit than Grand Rapids, so I almost preferred that jump because it was something totally different. I have no ties in Grand Rapids, and I have a ton of ties in Detroit.
Well, it's not too far from Lansing either,
Yeah,
so
it's
you
a quick
can,
drive home.
head home to family.
Yeah.
All right, what about you, Bree?
Mine was a little different. I had tried the big city. I had tried all of those things, and I had always kind of wanted Grand Rapids. I'd always loved the thought of Grand Rapids. Growing up in Mount Pleasant, I always found it extremely irritating being 2.5 hours away from the beach,
Yep.
being an hour and a half away from any like good mall. Not that I shop like all the time,
Yeah.
but like just to have those things accessible to me had always been a big frustration, especially in this state where we are surrounded by water, and
Yeah.
I just couldn't access
And you
it.
couldn't get to it? Yeah, that's a
Like,
little
this is
frustrating.
so annoying.
Yeah.
So I'd always wanted to be in Grand Rapids. I loved the city. I think it's super clean. It's super pretty. There's just so much going on in it constantly. And so that was always a big driver for me. So I'd always been looking in GR, just trying to be here. And then obviously 834 just sealed that deal instantly.
So it's kind of, it's a little bit overwhelming as a young professional to come in here and you're like, where do you even start? You guys have acclimated yourself, I'd say, pretty well. And one of the things you're doing right now is leading the young professional group for Inforum, which is actually, so I sat in the Inforum Regional Council, and it's actually a huge help for us because it's a little intimidating for young professionals to come into like an Inform event and everybody really kind of knows each other. And you're like, well, how do I make any inroads with these people? Like, do I just randomly go up and start talking to them, or do they think I'm that weirdo? That was always my game plan, but that doesn't work for everybody. So one of the things you guys are doing, and talk a little bit about this group, because I do want anyone who's listening who fits this demographic to get involved, because I think this is a really great group to do it. And interestingly enough, you've had to launch it virtually because of COVID. So do you want to give a quick overview, Bree, of what the group is?
Sure, absolutely. So Eric and I started the Young Professionals Affinity Group with Inform, thanks to Kim. What we're really just aiming to do is find connections, encourage people to feel comfortable in a networking space if they're young, have just moved to Grand Rapids, really any of those things. If you're looking to be part of a community that wants to support you, continue your growth, but also wants to have like a good time and talk about the issues that are really pertinent to you. We're really focusing on things that we're struggling with. So we talked a little bit about in our last event the difference between introverts and extroverts, and how you can kind of understand what your personality type is and how that relates to the workplace. And our next event, we're really looking at COVID-19, the things that we learned while we were in quarantine, and the ways that we can kind of translate that and improve ourselves as we go back into the workplace. So we're really just trying to be a networking group that has a lot of good ties, because it is really intimidating to go into a room full of people that know each other so well. So this is kind of just a space for people that don't really know anyone, or if you do know some people, to bring those connections together and kind of create a good community. Yeah.
Do you have anything to add, Erica?
I think you got all of it. It was a conversation that started, I want to say we started talking about like that as a pain point for us in November. Bree's first day, 8:34, I actually forced her to sign up for volleyball with me. Like, I don't even think she knew my last name yet, and I was like, you're joining my volleyball team.
Yeah, Grand Rapids Social Club. I forgot you guys did that too. That's another great way to meet people.
Yeah. And then from there, we would like both constantly be like, how do we meet people?
Yeah.
How do we talk to people?
Well, and it helps too, because you're kind of in the same boat, and I imagine that there's a lot of individuals or people that move here that don't know anyone, and so it can be especially overwhelming. I definitely would recommend, reaching out to, and the thing is, you can even do a search on LinkedIn, and I've had people reach out to me that way, like, can you recommend some groups I could get involved in? Who do if you know anyone in the community, and even if you don't, reaching out to other like businesses or like business owners, or say like other young professionals that are maybe in your same industry, they can give you an inroad into, helping you build the network. Because the most important thing I did when I started my career was to get involved. And I reached out to the American Marketing Association out of nowhere. And I was like, do you guys like need help with anything? And next thing I knew, I was in the chair of the communications committee, and I was on the board, and I was on that board for 7 years. And then I got involved with the Public Relations Society of America in West Michigan. And then there's countless nonprofits that you can also reach out to. I was really involved with the Humane Society of West Michigan for obvious reasons. And then, I did stuff with American Red Cross, American Cancer Society, Komen. The list goes on, because a lot of those groups are just looking for anyone to assist. I mean, Grand Rapids Pride Center, there's ways to get involved through the chamber. And you can you not drink my water? Sorry, Joey the Doberman is drinking out of my water bottle, so that is against COVID. Please don't do that. But reaching out even to the chamber and saying, hey, I'd love to get involved. And they have networking events too, and you can just show up. I guess some of my tips for meeting people, what would be one of your tips for like when you go to a networking event, how you really kind of like get a connection, or how do you start a conversation with someone?
I mean, mine are probably not good, but I usually just kind of find someone that I also think looks kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I'm like, because you can kind of get that vibe from someone, like they are not feeling comfortable, they're not feeling like this is the place that they want to be.
So
and
true.
Like, I always reach out to that person because I know they're in the same boat as me. So I'm like, let's just start a conversation. We might have nothing to talk about, but at least we can like stand together and kind of do something. So like, if I'm commenting on like I don't know, their jacket or their
Yeah.
shoes, or just like, where do you work?
Oh yeah, definitely go in for the compliment.
Yeah, just like
Yeah.
straight up with a compliment and like some sort of an icebreaker, or just
Yeah.
like shove your hand at someone. I don't know if that's going to be something
Well, maybe
you do anymore.
you'll have to shove your elbow at someone.
Yeah, like,
now.
nice to meet you. Just going in with that confidence, it sometimes shocks people,
Yeah.
and they just get confused that they talk to you. That's my advice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Erica, what is yours?
I try to, like, on the way, okay, so if you can on the way in, I try to talk to people. Because
Yeah.
I feel like
When you're walking in.
that gives me fuel.
Yeah.
And, like, it instantly makes me more comfortable. And then when you walk in, you kind of have, like, a presence in the room, or
Yeah.
you already feel somewhat acclimated. Also, research the event before you go, because
Yeah.
I've made that mistake, and I've made myself look really dumb before. So research it.
Well, and the thing is too, like, you can a lot of times see who else is attending the event,
Yeah.
whether they've, whether it's through Eventbrite or whether it's through, whatever. So if you look to see who's attending it or who's mentioned the event, you can connect with them on social media and say, hey, I'm going to be at this event too. Like it would, I'm looking forward to meeting you, whatever. I would also recommend the buddy system, but don't fall back on that. So you're standing in a corner by yourself, only talking to the person you came with. But there are a lot of young professionals that also go to these events, and there's not another individual at their company that's going to attend, so they're expected to attend on behalf of the company, and that can be a little intimidating. So if you know somebody else, whether in your industry or just another young professional, reach out to them and be like, hey, we should go to this networking event. I think this will be cool. It could be Grand Rapids Young Professionals, or it could be, really anything in the community, educational based, networking based. And then, you go together and you can kind of tag team meeting people, but don't fall back on like just sitting there and not talking to anybody. It's an easy thing to fall into. The other thing I would suggest is when you get to an event to check in over social media, because that lets other people know that you're there, and they might reach out to you or comment on that. And then it also helps because you're saying, hey, I'm out here, I'm networking, I'm here to meet people. This is what I do. This is who I work with. So it helps people see, it raises your profile in the community as well. What I always did, because I didn't often go to events that didn't have beer, didn't have a bar, I would just go up to the bar and I would just hang out there, because I was like, if these people are getting a drink, they're probably cool. So, and I would just, I'd be like, hey, can I buy you a drink? And it would usually be a free bar. So it's like totally a lame joke, but it breaks the ice. And then, if you have a drink before, you tend to loosen up a little bit and feel a little less nervous or scared. And you can always start that conversation with, oh, you drink red wine, great, me too, with ice in it, awesome, let's be friends. But I would say like buddy systems is a great tool. But then also, getting involved. There are a lot of young professional groups that are in this community. And I would say Grand Rapids is pretty welcoming, but it can be hard if you're not from around here. It tends to be a little harder for those that aren't from the community to build their networks.
Transplants.
Yes.
As
It
well
is a little
referred to.
hard, but
Well, or even finding a place to like live.
Yeah.
How do you even know where the good areas are? And yeah,
Clearly,
don't know
clearly
anything.
you don't.
yeah. Yeah, you guys finally figured it out, which is good. So
that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like someone needs to have a transplant list out there for someone. Like, these are the different things that you need to check off your list when you move
I
to
swear
Grand
you just
Rapids.
gotta start doing things.
Yeah.
Like you just have to get out of the house
Yeah.
and like just do things.
Like, just
Force
leave,
people to
just
talk to you.
try.
Yeah.
well, and I think too, it's really good for your, it's good for your mental health to be surrounded by other individuals that are in the same kind of on the same career path or in the same age group, because those are, Grand Rapids. Although, like, people like to think Grand Rapids is large, it's a really small community when it gets down to, like, professionals and networking. You're going to run into the same people over and over and over again. I created my own group of, it was, at one point it was just other women in marketing, and then it expanded to be women business owners. And so that, I just reached out and I was like, hey, you guys want to meet up at a coffee shop, like a couple, like once a month, or, do you want to do, like, wine at the office or something like that? So don't hesitate to like create your own community within the city that you reside in. What was your favorite, Brie? What was your favorite thing about DC, and what was your least favorite thing about DC?
I loved that DC had so much to offer. There is just so much history. There's so much to do. But I think that was also on myself a little bit of a fault, because there is so much to do, you can do it 100% alone. There are so many museums, the Smithsonian's are there. It's such a walkable city. I didn't think I took full advantage of getting to know the people in the city. I mostly just got to know the city, but on a personal level. So I didn't do what I'm doing here. I didn't research different groups that I could join. I didn't try and get outside of my own little bubble. I just kind of stayed to myself because I think I felt so overwhelmed by how massive the city was. So I think if I were to ever go back to a big city, I would kind of do it more of how I did here and just try and find someone that was similar to me. So I was very fortunate that Erica was here because she and I are very similar, and we have a lot of the same viewpoints on these things. So I did have someone to tag team with, which was a lot easier. But growing and doing that stuff on my own, I think that would have definitely been a really, really big learning curve.
Well, and you said too, like even joining a gym or, you know, doing cycling, like now you're teaching cycling. Like, I think getting involved that way too, you meet other people that are around the same age or, you know, and you can, you know, I think you just have to get out there and be visible. And sometimes that's the hardest part, but like the rewards are so huge when you start building that network. If I hadn't started building my network, over however 15 to 20, I don't know how old I am, years ago, like I wouldn't have, there's no way 834 would exist. And people say that all the time, oh, you have this really big network. Well, I have a big network because I was out networking every single night. I was out doing things every single, you know, I was on boards and committees and went to breakfast meetings and lunch. And, you know, I just reach out to somebody I didn't know and be like, hey, I'd love to grab lunch with you and learn more about you and what you do. And it's funny because a lot of those individuals I still see on a regular basis because they were part of that group. One of them is a client. Another one is like started their own business and reached out to me about that. And so I think like never underestimate the power of your network. And then it, you know, when you're new to a community like you both are, I mean, do your research. Get online. I mean, that's what the internet is for, people.
True.
Right?
It's about researching and really just putting yourself out there. Like, at least with my the lunar cycling thing, I literally just emailed them. I was like, are you looking for people that could be an instructor there? And they're like, absolutely, come talk to us, come meet us. And I was like, okay. So just like taking that initial step,
out there,
putting yourself out there, and it obviously
literally
worked out
what's
for me.
the worst that can happen?
They don't
say
reply.
no.
They say no. They're like, no. They're not
you
going to
get on a
mean
bike and
about it.
fall off of it, and they're like, what? Why are you here? You throw up in the middle of class. That would be me.
And I mean, with our YPN group, we reached out to you. Obviously, you're within our network, so it was a little bit easier. But we were like, we want to do this, and then you gave us this platform to kind of expand it. So I mean,
you guys have ran with it too. Like it's been awesome to see. Your first, I mean. And especially now because you have to do everything virtually. Like who knows if we'll ever get to see each other in person again. It's just it's going to be a very different world when we start returning to it, like, you know, fully. So I think, you know, gyms will be different, networking will be different. You know, are we going to be doing the elbow bump? I mean, I'll be happy because there won't be hugs and
Finger guns.
Yeah.
Finger guns only.
Yeah. Like, hey. So I think, you know, I think your network is almost even more important in times like these, you know, because I'm still having Zoom happy hours with those individuals and talking to them, and you know, so I mean, I can't say it enough. Never underestimate the power of your network, and definitely get out there and start creating it today. All right, so moving. You guys moved, obviously. How have you set up the place? Because it's a pretty cool place.
It is super cool. You mean like floor plan wise?
Yeah. Well, I'm just curious because I know Bree hates color.
Okay, yeah. Most everything. If you go, it's really funny if you look at my room versus Bree's room.
You can
Bree's
tell.
room is Bree's room. It is white gray with hints of light blue, and then mine I have like the yellow comforter and like color pop here, color pop there, and then but the living room there's two couches and they're blue, and everything else is like gray/black. There's
So
a green
she
rug.
won in the living room. I hear. Is what I hear you saying.
Yeah, but I mean
It wasn't intentional because the couch is Erica's.
Yeah,
It's like
I
a
had a
dark
blue
gray.
couch.
And then we have the blue couch that you gave us. And then my parents gave us like this old rug that they didn't want. And it's like a cream color. And then the walls and everything else is white and gray.
Yeah, there's a few brown walls, but
Well, you could
Pretty
put
simple,
up
but-
removable wallpaper.
yeah.
Like, you know
We
how excited
could.
I get about that. Yeah. It
Bree,
could be like a
Are you
muted
sure
pattern.
we want to do that?
A muted pattern.
Bree's way of saying no.
Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
Are you sure we should put that?
It removes, so
love
yes,
that.
you can. I keep trying to get you guys on the wallpaper bandwagon because it's cool.
I think that our dining room could have some
Yeah,
fun
You
help.
put it on one wall.
with
It's not like you
Yeah.
put it on like all the walls. That would be overwhelming.
Our
We
dining
also
room needs some help.
have a patio, and so we need to
Yeah.
decorate
Oh
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Get some outside speakers.
That'd
Oh
be cool.
Yeah.
yeah.
We need some chairs at the
I
moment.
have to tell the story from this morning. There's a house next to us, and Bree's seen people go in it before, and she was like, I think those are like people our age. And this morning Bree was like backing out the car, turning it, and this guy's walking down the driveway with the trash can. She goes, look, they are our age. And she waves at him and drives away. I was like, and she goes, oh God, why did I just wave? And he's like, who is that?
That's a thing people do. I wave all the
So
time.
I was like, that's not weird.
Now
They
that
both were like,
Now that I'm a boat person, I wave to people on boats all the
forgot
time.
you're a
literally
boat
looked at
person.
me
That's
like
a big
I was
thing.
Yeah.
insane. He was like, I do not know you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why are you waving?
Let's
And
be friends.
it's
If
like
you had
8 in the
shouted out the
morning.
window, let's be friends, like that would have been even better.
And I was like, Erica, thank God the windows are up. You couldn't hear me.
I was like, wait, what just happened?
And now you're gonna have to hide every time they come outside.
That's what I said. I was like, now they're never gonna not bother
Like,
us.
it's literally our next door neighbor. I was like, dear goodness.
You should drop off cookies. That would be even creepier.
XO Brie.
we're here. We're your new neighbors.
I feel like these are laced with something for sure.
For
Yeah.
sure. Okay, what's your what's the best piece of advice you received when moving to a new community or building your network or whatever? And then we'll wrap up with that. It's a brain buster, guys.
It is, because I didn't get a lot of guidance when I moved, because my family...
Yeah, if you
outside-
had, I wouldn't have allowed you to
That's-
move into the roach-infested apartment that you lived in.
I think most of my advice came from, like, learning from watching everyone at 834.
Yeah.
As I was integrating in my first
Yeah.
3 months, I watched, and, like, I went to an event with Emily, who
Yeah.
used to work here, and I was watching her interact, and I was like, oh, like, she has no idea who these people are, but she's just, like, walking, like, she's just putting herself
You
out
just
there.
fake it.
Yeah, and
Totally
so it was
do.
kind of like, okay, so you just have to do it. Like, there is no step-by-step
And
guide.
there's
You just have
no
to
good
do
way to do it.
Yeah.
Like, literally, there
So
is
it's
not.
terrible advice.
Yeah.
but I got no advice.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's what I ran
So
with.
you fumbled through.
Yes.
Great. That's Erica's advice, everyone. Bree, it's
God.
all on you now.
They're really counting on you.
I don't know if it was ever given to me, but I think the really just putting yourself out there and just trying to really fake it till you make it. I think
Yeah.
that's literally all there is to networking. That's all there is to being part of a community. You just have to take that step, even as uncomfortable as you might feel. Like, it will be okay, because at the end of the day, you'll probably be happy with the decision to take that little step rather than of not trying at all. I know, like, it would have eaten at the back of my mind if I wouldn't have, like, tried to do one thing.
Yeah, I've been doing this for a very long time, and 834 has been around for 13, 14 years. You're still gonna do dumb shit when you go to an event. I walked into a closet. Bree got a president wrong. I mean, just dumb things happen. And you just own it. You own it and you just roll with it. You're like, yeah, I totally just walked into a closet in front of all these people. Don't have a coat in there, gonna leave now. Like, that's it. I mean, like, you're always gonna do something to, like, be awkward or, and if you just kind of roll with it and are a bit self-deprecating, like, it can really work in your favor.
Everyone loves that.
Yeah, right. Well, they're like, wow, I'm glad I'm not that awkward. So you're making somebody feel good.
It's more approachable.
Yeah, exactly. You're relatable. God, I'm glad I'm not that girl.
That's literally what I think every
Yeah.
time I say something. I'm like, yikes.
Yeah.
Whoops.
So,
Let me in here.
and if you guys want more information on, any groups to get involved with, you can always reach out to us, whether it's digital at 834 Design or Kim at 834 Design. But, I've had a lot of young professionals and new grads that have reached out to me saying where to start. And I would say, what is something that you're very passionate about? If you're passionate about dogs, then reach out to a local animal rescue. Find out what you can do to, either come in and pet dogs and cats, or like maybe you can help them with their social media presence. And then look at other professional organizations. Literally Google, professional organizations in Grand Rapids, in wherever you are. I mean, the internet has a wealth of information for you. So, and then, like I said, connect with other people that you either know in the area or, have seen, or they're new grads as well. And you guys can fumble through it together. It really is.
It's
yeah.
fun.
What we're up to.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
just take it on with a fun outlook.
Yeah.
Laugh at yourself, laugh at it. Don't take it too seriously.
Don't take yourself too seriously at all. So, well, all right, you guys, you've officially been hustled. Thanks for listening, everyone. Our next podcast is going to be on the legalities of returning to work amidst COVID. So that'll be a little bit more hard hitting than networking and moving into a new community. But we got to balance out these topics. So, all right, guys, thanks for joining us. We'll